Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
And now what's the vibration I'm putting out in the world? And to go back to, can't remember whether it's the T or the E, probably the E of the tears of joy, to ask the question, well, what's the energy I want to be offering? What's going to actually change my direction even by just 1 degree? You know, you change the direction of a ship by just 1 degree and it ends up at a vastly different destination. So in that moment, to just be present, to be honest, as you say, Andrew, with ourselves, and to recognize this is where my energy is at right now. It's dropped. What one thing can I do to just lift my vibration, whether it's Alexis's exercise of using the breath, whether it's putting a hand on our heart, whether it's focusing on something that we're thankful for right now in this moment, even though things might be crumbling around us. What's one thing I can be thankful for? Well, you know, I have a roof over my head, or I have clothing on my back, or I have people who love me, or even if one part of my body is ailing and giving me pain, the shoulder that Chris was referring to, there are lots of other parts of my body that are supporting me, that are healthy and well and vibrant. I have the freedom of choice to choose what I choose to focus on, to make that decision, to use our personal power in that positive way. In that moment, when we do any of those things, we lift our vibration, we step out of that mass consciousness, we step out of identifying ourselves with our physical circumstances and what's going on in our life, and we lift ourselves up and out of it to a more empowered place that then we can move forward differently. We can take a different step, to take the A of the tears, to take a different action in the world. But first we need to recognize our energy has dropped, and then make that empowered choice that that's not the frequency we want to be offering in the world and operating within our lives, to do something about it. Just in that moment, something little, something small, something action that will shift our energy, just that 1 degree. It's all it takes, just a 1 degree shift in our vibration.
That has to open well. Alexa, saying you brought us in so beautifully this morning with practices that absolutely lift that energy in that moment. Unmute, we'd love to hear you.
Oh, whoopsie. Great point, Juliet. What's coming up for me is, I think we kind of feel guilty to get support, especially as a woman. We need support, and you're talking about getting support of a tool, or, you know, doing something, and I think we think we've got to do it all alone, and there's some kind of guilt as well that can be there if you're feeling like you need support. But there's such crazy energy out there. We need so much support. We need support from this, you know, broadcast. We need support from a daily practice. We need support from perhaps a mentor. We need so much support. And especially, you know how there's like the cliche of like the mum doing it all, the businesswoman, or the guy's strong, you know, he doesn't need, like, we need support. So that's just what's coming up for me, is like, don't feel, especially if you're a man, like a guy, you need support. That's not weak, you know. And the word was brought up that we're moving from the age of me to we, and Juliet said it so well. You really opened my mind. Like, it's not about how do I get ahead. It's not about like, look at me, you know, oh, I'm getting attention, or it's about community. It's about, this is the age we're moving into, and you kept drilling down, and it just opened my brain up to realize it's, you know, gone are the days of like building the business alone and, you know, being it all about you. No, it's about giving back and truly getting away from that ego conditioning and coming into the heart. So just to wrap it up, it's like, get supported, like the 3 things that I know that we need is, you need some kind of a teacher. And it's such a coveted incarnation if you find a teacher that you really connect to. You need someone to like, that you look up to, that can like cut through your bullshit. And you need a community. You need, perhaps it's a spiritual community or this, and you need a practice. You need to commit to something. You need this. Otherwise, there is not a lot of chance that we can truly do what we came here to do. We will get compounded by the pressure on the planet at the moment.
One of the things I think is so beautiful about that, the concept of support too, is that when we look at a forest or like seeing the beautiful scene outside the window there, that we know from the studies in nature that the resilience of the forest, the resilience of the trees is the mass different diversity and all the fungal hyphae and the networks and connections that are underneath. And it might be that something's a little shrub. It might be something that has no leaves but only pops up every 6 years. It might be the biggest tree, but of that, the resilience is the connection between it all. And I found anytime there's a question in life, nature gives the answers. And that's why it was very interesting to hear each of you give an example from nature that's letting us know about the alignment of what works well, particularly that recreating and asking ourselves as well, and as community. So does anyone have another specific question for each other? Because otherwise I've got a couple here as well. But
I just want to add to that, if it's all right, Geraldine. I was reflecting as everyone was talking, I am in the age of the crone. And I remember when I turned 50, I won't swear, but I was so repulsed by the term crone. You're going into your crone energy. And I want to completely rebrand it to be fabulous and fit and 50. But I realized that, there's a responsibility we have as elders within the community. And today's these 2 days program has been opened by elders. By Uncle Fred, by Grandmother Parish and Dr. Yugandhar. And elders look beyond themselves because they've done their, they've done their separation process as babies. They've done their individuation process as teenagers. They've done their who am I in the world in their 20s. They've done their possibly, family raising or business raising in their 30s and their 40s. And you get to your 50s and your 60s and your 70s and your 80s, as Grandmother Parish is in her 80s. And you realize that you're going to leave this world. There's absolutely nothing you can take with you. What state do you want to leave the world in? What's the contribution that you want to see? What's the change in the bigger picture? And so you look at the community from a very different light, that it's not about self, it's about community. And I realized in listening to everyone today that it's the elders that have, we talk about listening to the Indigenous peoples and the wisdom that they have that we've completely ignored in society. But it's the elders of the Indigenous communities that have maintained their connection with self, with spirit, with land, with community, with the greater whole, with the universe, with the stars, with the alignment, with the numerology, with the energy rising. And so the wisdom they speak is not about the I, and it's not about the them or the they. They speak in oneness, in unity, which is the World United Organization, rather than the separation of what's the I, what's the me, the you, and they're looking at the bigger picture. And so listening to the community wisdom is the thing that will, provide the ascension of mankind on this planet to a higher level of operating, that we are operating with that unity consciousness. And I think that's for us to be aware of that regardless of age, to not wait to become the sage, to actually start to connect with the we and the forest and all aspects of the forest, that it takes the diversity and the richness and the contribution of all ages, all stages, working within the bigger picture. That would be something that a seed I would like to plant from today's panel.
A beautiful seed to plant. And as you mentioned there, those big rippling effects and all in alignment, which is great, because that is a good way to welcome Chris back in as well, with success in technology and knowing that everything is frequency and numbers. It looks like really gives us part of the key to understanding some of those frequencies and getting harmony there. Chris, what would you like to share?
I agree. Everything is about sharing, and it's working together as a team. Just two little things. First off, I was driving on a road, and there was a bird in the middle of the road. Now, it was dead, so that was sad, but I just saw cars passing over it. But what I did is I stopped, I pulled. Now, even a bird on a road that has passed does not deserve to be run over by other cars. And so, of course, I got some leaves on the side, some sticks, and picked it up and put it over into where it needed to go. And that's what we don't do. We don't be in the present moment aware of what actually is going on and what is happening. And everything happens for a reason. So, sure, it died, it was there, but most of us don't actually connect to the value of life in the way it should be. So for me to drive past and let other cars drive over it, that is just so, it's just not acceptable, I don't think. So, pull up, move it. Yeah, it's a dead bird. It's not going to hurt you, but give it respect. And when you give it respect there, things will come back in other ways to you. Now, it was only 2 days ago, and you've got to follow your gut feeling, whether it's everything about it, but follow the gut feeling. I went for coffee. I always have a morning coffee at a certain shop. A couple of days ago, I thought, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go around the corner. And it's like, okay, why am I parking a block away from here? This is ridiculous. But my gut said park here. So anyway, park there, get my coffee, get back in the car. And because where I was parked, I needed to go in a different direction. So as I started to drive, I drive up the hill, and here's this woman walking down, no shoes on, her face looking really down and what have you. And I went around past her and I thought, oh, she needs help. She's in a bad way. So I went around the block and I thought, okay, if I'm meant to help her, she will be there and I'll be able to say hello. And I was driving, I've got a couple of cars, but one I was driving was the Porsche. And I thought I better not pull up in a Porsche with that. So I parked it a block away so she wouldn't see. And then I walked up because she was sitting on the ground, her head in her hands, and she was really, really crying. And I just walked up and said, oh, do you feel like a chat? And she just nodded her head. And so from that, I sat down on the grass with her and we got chatting. She'd been walking for a day and a half. She'd had an argument with her mom. My gut feeling said she had maybe a mental problem, but I wasn't quite sure. And I said, oh, I work with people all the time. Why don't I sit here and see if I can help you out? Would you like some help? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, I just need your date of birth so I can work it out. And as soon as she got, I thought, okay, she's got bipolar, she's got mental frustration and that. But that's not what you say to someone who's sitting there crying. And I said, right, okay, so this is how sometimes your mind works and this is what goes on. And it's like you've got a devil one minute and you've got something there and people don't understand it. And she said, yeah. And we went through a few. She said, wow, I don't have to tell you anything. That's my life. How do you know that? And I said, well, that's okay, but how are we going to fix it? So we're sitting on the street, people are walking past and the way they looked was disgusting. It was like they were looking down. And I said, oh, forget about them. They don't know what they're doing. So I said, let's put a plan into place. And I said, I'm going to show you right this minute how when your mind goes like this, it's a really quick exercise that untraps you. And so we got up and we're on the footpath and we're doing these figure eights. So I show her how to untrap. And she said, that's amazing. My mind feels different. And I said, yeah, of course it does. Long story short, I said, just sit there for a minute. I'm going to get you a coffee and something to eat. So sit there and do that. Get a coffee, came back. We sat there a bit longer and we went through a few things. And I said, now are you ready to go home to your mom? Yeah, I'm ready to go home. So you're going to get back in touch with your dad and you're going to get back working. So we went through some things. We gave her some exercise. I called a taxi, paid for the taxi, and he took her home. Now, we've got to start. It's not saying you pick up every beggar or that, but you have to tune into your gut and you have to know that the gut feeling inside. And as she said, she'd had the argument, she'd been walking for a day and a half, but she said this morning she'd just been praying and she'd been praying the rosary. I link very much to Our Lady and the rosary. And so she was walking and saying the rosary, asking for someone to help her. So when you ask for help, someone comes. But we as teachers and people being out there, we have to be ready to see and we have to be ready to help. And it's helping at a time when people need it. So some people are going to pay, some people aren't, but you get gratitude. I got the most amazing feeling that day, was worth all the joy in the world because I got her back home again, not walking the streets. And so my message would be out there, don't walk past someone and judge them. Walk past, and even if you just send an energy vibration to wish them luck or pull up and do something. But even if you see an animal, acknowledge the animal, cherish it, give it respect. But everything starts from the ants to, the weeds. Everything starts from down there up here. And one of the books I wrote, Animal Energy, every animal will link to your subconscious. And when you work with your animals and the subconscious, it's amazing what can shift there as well.
Wow, you can really see how this is the start of a conversation, probably the restart of many conversations already held and many to have, and that those conversations create change. And one thing I am hearing is that there are multiple tiny things that can happen that all have these ripple effects. And likewise, like some of the traditional sayings, when you hold one individual stick by itself can be broken, but when we take a bundle of sticks and we tie them together, that's really where we're at now. And that's a big part of what the conference is. So my next question, because I know we've got the next session at 12, so probably about 10 or so minutes before we wrap up. But what would be another one of the things that you would see in terms of as bringing all of the beautiful individuality of the fingerprint and that purpose? What are some of the tangible things of coming together as bundles so that we also have that combined strength?
You asking me?
And open to anybody to answer. Probably just do a couple of minutes each person answering that one, or something else that comes to mind based on what others are saying.
I wrote Coloured Undies, Change the Colour of Your Undies, Change Your Life about, so many years ago. And it's so amazing. I'll walk into an office and someone will say, I've got my red undies on today. Something as simple as that, even working in a family, it's like a grumpy person getting up, and it's like the parent, I know a few mums say, we must have your black undies on, go and get changed. So we have to have little simple action steps or little simple power places. And I remember a family heading overseas, they were absolutely terrified of flying. And so they got one of my T-shirts, which was a red one. Yes, I can. I know I can. So when the family were going to an airport and they were getting on the plane, every single one put red undies on and their red T-shirt, and they went as a team. What we have to do is everything you do is a vibration that goes out as a team. When you can share something very simple and don't complicate it, don't come as if you're judging and putting them down, just make a suggestion. And for me, a little bundle like the Coloured Undies, giving it as a gift, you are starting to create a domino effect for change without even knowing. And when you get happy, other people will get happy.
That's beautiful. Who'd like to add to when you get happy, other people get happy?
Yeah, look, I'll just add, that was wonderful. Chris, well done. Thank you for that. I just think be unashamedly you. And I think we live in a society that squeezes us into a box that we don't fit. And I think we try to, like I spent a lot of my life trying to fit where I didn't, trying to be approved of, and then realize, well, I don't care it doesn't matter what other people think of me. It matters what I think of me. And I think, again, what Chris said is when you are happy, you give other people permission to be happy. When you're yourself, you give other people permission to be yourself and be true to you. I mean, look, we're all flawed, every one of us. And I think, and I've spent a lot of my life pretending not to be. That's really stressful. Be you and be proud of your flaws, be proud of your mistakes, be proud. I look at that moment in my life when I was in $100,000 debt, and a lot of people say, well, that was bad. And I think, no, it wasn't at all. If it wasn't in that moment in my life, I never would have made the decision to write a book, which transformed my life. So I think, firstly, don't be anyone but yourselves. No matter what anyone says to you, and how you be you, and be bold, be courageous, follow your dream, follow your heart, no matter whether it ruffles feathers. Just be you.
Great advice. And it would come about also from asking that question, how do you want to live? So I appreciate you shared that earlier too, Andrew. Yes.
Thanks, Andrew. It's something that's coming up from that is be the first person to reach out. be the first person. If if you're at a party, or if you're at this, if you connect to someone, message them, hey, let's meet up for a chai. Like, we all sit back, I think, feeling alone and waiting for the guy to come over, or be the first person and reach out. Like, that's a great thing. And also, like, something that's helped me is like, be the happiest person in the room. Like, just and know that a lot of us, like most of us, have we're so worried to make a fool of ourselves. Like, most of us have this little worry inside of us, and just know, like, hey, they've got it as well. Like, even if they look really cool, like, they probably have that worry. So just be like, hey, like, because we all have these little wounds, and you don't want to have that regret. And then something really beautiful happens when you just be you, as Andrew said, is you're in truth, and then truth comes out. You're both in your heart, and you can engage from that truth, and not that in society, you know how it's so easy to just be talking like from the ego, like, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. And it's like this separation. And so that's what helps me to kind of make the fool of myself, get over it, and, get on with life.
For me, when you said what about when we're all a bundle of sticks wrapped together that we're stronger? I remember a Wayne Dyer quote that he was quoting from somewhere else, so I don't know the original source, but it was, no tree would ever be so foolish as to have its branches fight amongst themselves. And I think even within the spiritual communities, we can fall into that trap of seeing ourselves as separate. We're trying to survive. We're trying to earn an income to make ends meet, that we see ourselves as being separate. And so rather than being in separation, division, and competition through comparison, we need to shift that paradigm within ourselves to realize we're all interconnected, and to find, what do I have in common with the next little stick in the bundle, and the next stick and the next stick. And I think that comes back to what Andrew shared in terms of not only being ourselves, but what Alexis has just shared in terms of like being honest and being vulnerable, and finding what is it that we have in common. And we can only find out what we have in common by being honest and sharing through vulnerability, and not judging ourselves as being weak through that process. But actually, when I find out what I have in common with you, Alexis, that builds the strength between us. And when I find out what I have in common with Chris or with Andrew, through my honest sharing, through my showing up fully, not judging myself, but wholeheartedly sharing who I am without judgment, without condition, without holding back, we find out what we have in common. We build those bridges, those connections, that together we do become stronger. And we're no longer seeing each other as being separate and someone to compare myself with and to compete with, but someone that I have something in common with, that we're same, that we're like-hearted. Even though we're unique individuals, we have different things to contribute, but together we can contribute more. And I think that's the purpose of this whole festival, is together we can contribute more.
Yeah.
Beautifully. Yes, together we can. And that also is part of what my last question that I had, which does relate to that, is in relation to, for a viewer, say, who's listening, who's saying, well, that's all good, you can do it because you're wonderful, or look how good, and they'll find something in each of you to say you're wonderful, and that's different maybe from where they're at. So what would be a message that you would give to someone who's listening to think, oh, well, when I get like you, or if I was like you, I would be able to make the difference, but I'm not there yet?
Can I answer that one first?
Yes.
I remember when I was going through divorce, I think it's about 18 years ago now, and I was totally clear. I was done within my marriage. I'd worked through the last of my fears that set me free to leave an unhealthy marriage, what was unhealthy, unhappy for me. And then I spent the next 3 years going through absolute shit, really, really hard times. And when I asked my spiritual guides, why am I going through this shit when I'd actually worked through all my stuff before I left? The answer was, so that you can be a better teacher. And I said, I don't understand. And it was actually so that you can be a better teacher to those that need to learn from you, so that you can share the hardships you've been through. You can share with honesty and vulnerability the difficulties and challenges you've been through, so that those who are in those challenges can relate to you, can know that you understand the difficulties they're facing, the traumas they've been through, how hard life can be. They can hear it if you share, and this goes back to what I previously said, if you share who you are with honesty and vulnerability, not being perfect, not having everything together, but this has been my journey, and then that person that needs to learn from you as a teacher, or someone who has a tool that can assist them, someone who drives by, who can sit on the grass with you and talk to you, you will know that they resonate with the same energy, that they understand you because they've been through that experience. So every one of the speakers that you hear throughout these coming 2 days will have been through difficulties, trials, tribulations, 100,000 in debt, whatever it is, that you as a listener will be able to relate to one of us, resonate with the same energy, that we have walked the same steps. We may only be one step ahead of you, but we can turn around and reach a helping hand of care and love and offer something of help.
Beautifully said.
Beautiful.
Things don't change when, I don't know how to say this, things don't change in your life until you make a decision. The change happens in a moment, not when you've got the result. And I think a lot of people have the old belief is, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. But it's the other way around. When you believe it, you'll see it. Yeah. And, for me, that, I laugh, Geraldine, when you said, well, people sitting there going, well, look at these 4 or 5 amazingly accomplished people. Let me tell you, we're all flawed and screwed up. Excuse me, everyone, but, I've been through 3 divorces. I've lost money on more than one occasion. I was sacked as a professional footballer. I've been at my lowest. I've lost my mum to cancer. I have had we all have been through stuff. We've all failed miserably at things. And that's not what defines us. And that's not what, you can find happiness in your lowest point. You can find joy in your lowest moment, but that's a choice and a decision that you get to make. So if you're sitting here and you're going, yeah, it's okay for them because, well, then that's victim mentality. That's victim mindset. You've got to start to believe in your strength and your power and just say, today things change. Today, my life gets better because I choose it. And you can find gratitude everywhere. You can find gratitude in adversity. There's gratitude and joy to be found. That's a decision to look for joy. I just posted on Facebook this morning because of, the law of every Friday is the law of days. So today was the law of joy. And joy is available to every single person right now if you choose to look for joy. Change will happen the second you make a decision, the second you focus on what you want. All these amazing ladies have spoken about vibration and energy and what you put out to the universe, or whatever you say. It doesn't happen when you've achieved it. It happens the moment you make that choice. You can make that choice right now.
I totally agree with you, Andrew. To me, I work with so many people, and as you were talking there, I know one little girl who's only 24. And it is about choice. You have to make a choice. The biggest thing I find is you do not let anyone define you, and you find yourself someone who believes in you. Now, you've got to start believing in yourself, but then you just find one little, and it could be someone just local, or the cafe person who says, hello, how's your day? You look good today. It doesn't matter. And while you were talking, Andrew, I come across a lot of people, and the little girl, little 24-year-old, she'd witnessed a murder. She wouldn't give the information. She ended up in prison, ended up back out again. And she was given my number, and I phoned her and I said, oh, you must be good at something. And she said, I've just been in prison. I said, yeah, let's get over that. That's over in the past. Let's move on. I said, you should be creative and you should be able to do drawing. She said, yeah, I've been doing these sketches. I'm thinking about putting them in a book, because when you go to these mental health places and their rehabilitations, you should see what they give you. And I said, well, why don't we work on that? And she said, you're not worried about the other? I said, why would I? That's over and done with. Let's get over it. And so she put together little sketches that she drew that we're putting together to put as colouring in books in rehabilitation centres and prisons. So everything comes back to one single choice. Do you want to stay there or don't you? So if you're out there, I don't care where you are, what you've been through or what you're doing, just make a decision. Are you going to stay there or are you going to get over it? And as everyone always says to me, they're going to put it on my grave, just get over it. And we actually do brain training. So, you know, when I was at school, they said I was hopeless at art. And when I was at sport, they only would put me in the bag race. And I thought, well, if you think I'm going to stay just doing the bag race and you don't want my art, you've got another thing coming. So from that, I've now competed in state, national, world championships, and my art's in 3 countries, and I teach art. So the biggest thing is I would find when something wasn't right or someone defined me or something went wrong, it's like, well, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to get over it. And that's what I put out there. And even when my ex had an affair because the girl was pregnant, I said, oh, that's all right. Well, let's not argue about it. What about if you take all this stuff and I'll do that? It was the best thing since sliced bread because I knew it was time to get separated. Don't go into victim mode. It was like, we're still best mates. We have Christmas together with everyone in the family. So it's how you decide to accept the situation. You can either be victim or you can be the warrior. And what we do is go to the warrior. And so my best information for anyone who's out there watching it, I don't care where you are and where you've been, all I want to know is, do you want to have change? And the first thing, go get some undies, red undies or orange undies, so you're going to get some change. And then if you want to get in touch with me, you're more than welcome. We'll get one of my books, but there is nothing stopping you. If you can take a girl that's witnessed a murder in prison, drugs, rehabilitation, and now writing colouring in books or drawing colouring in books, there's nothing you can't do either.
That is wonderful. All of these are just so beautiful. I'm so happy it's being recorded. And I thought at this point, I'll hand to Alexis to do the final statement too, because in this morning we did that position of power too in our bodies. And then we'll wrap up the panel and we'll get ready. You're welcome to stay on, of course, to watch our next group of speakers. But I'll hand over to Alexis, and I incredibly appreciate all of what's here today, and I know I will re-listen to it. We do also have some certificates which we're out of time to present right now, but we will make sure they're presented later and we'll splice them back on with the recording. So over to you, Alexis, for wrapping up.
Thanks, Geraldine. Thanks, Chris, for sharing that really touching story. It brings up the thought and the realization about idolatry, about how much we are so indoctrinated into looking at idols and thinking, oh, if I just had like shinier skin, oh, if I just had bigger muscles, you know, and like looking always outside. And it even happens even still. And I think it's prevalent with all of us looking, you know, at the younger woman or whatever it is. And this is complete bullshit. It's in you. As they said, the fingerprint is so unique in you. It's you. You are the medicine. You are the answer. You're the one you've been waiting for. It is you, no matter if you're wrinkly or you're bigger or you're smaller, you're light or you're dark, whatever it is, it's the beauty. You are so beautiful in you. And perhaps your mum and dad didn't tell you that, or the teachers at school. I know so many school teachers said, like, I wasn't smart enough and this and that. And then I went to uni and went, well, there's just so many things that can get us down. So just know idolatry is there. It's all on Instagram. You got to bring it back into you, and you got to start training and building yourself up to start to crack through all this conditioning. So that's what I'd leave it with.
Good one.
Absolutely beautiful. Let's leave it with that, because that is wonderful, wonderful advice. Wonderful. So we'll all stay connected like sticks in a bundle, and we'll keep growing this bundle and this strength. And we appreciate you being part of the Global Transformation Festival. And this is just a beginning.